On the evening of October 11, 2023, Raesha Heard, a 31-year-old mother of two, arrived at her parents' home on Kelly Chapel Road in DeKalb County, Georgia. She carried groceries, the routine of a family dinner ahead, unaware that this ordinary task would end in violence. As she stepped out of her car, a gunman approached. Shots rang out. Raesha fell to the ground. Her 8-year-old son watched from a distance, unable to react, frozen by the sudden eruption of gunfire. The suspect, later identified as Justin Rene Lewis, a rapper known as Mad Muzik Cali.
Gotta get this paper while these other bums lagging. I done slept in calls trying to make this shit happen. I'm on my Jesus Christ shit. I do this with a passion. I'm passionate. Got me chasing a check in my nightgown. No Meek Mills can't let my dreams turn to nightmares.
Okay.
Fist fighting with the system, I'm right there.
Okay.
Fingerprinted lawyer tell me how the fuck the fight felt. Convicted felon, I can't get no job. They making life a living hell like it ain't no God. Way before this pandemic, it was twice this hard. How you supposed to see my pain when my lights turned off?
Had a history with Raesha. Their relationship had ended due to alleged abuse, a connection that would become central to the investigation. Within days, law enforcement traced the shooting back to Lewis, leading to his arrest in Forest Park, Georgia. He faced charges of malice murder. The murder did not occur in isolation. Raesha's family had endured tragedy before. In July 2022, her 15-year-old brother, Raesha Heard, had been shot and killed during an armed robbery. Now, just over a year later, the family faced another fatal loss. Authorities collected evidence, reviewed surveillance footage, and interviewed witnesses. Social media posts from the suspect taunting the family drew additional attention and intensified the investigation. The community watched closely as the case unfolded, highlighting concerns about domestic violence, gun violence, and public safety. Raesha's death left questions. How did the suspect plan the attack? Were warning signs missed? Could intervention have prevented it? The answers remain part of an ongoing legal process. This story is not just about a single act of violence. It is a sequence of events, choices, and histories colliding, leading to a fatal outcome witnessed by a child. If you're captivated by real crime stories that peel back the layers of truth, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us as we uncover real cases, raise awareness, and give a voice to the voiceless. Before we dive into today's story, we want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? And how do you feel as the story unfolds? Welcome to Deadly Crime Unmasked, the show where we expose the shocking crimes that rip through communities and the chilling secrets lurking behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Don't forget to subscribe and activate notifications. You won't want to miss the gripping story that's coming up. Now let's dive in.
County family still reeling after someone shot and killed a young mother in the family driveway. It happened on Kelly Chapel Road. Raesha Heard's family tells Fox 5 her 8-year-old son watched it happen.
Fox 5's Angelique Proctor joins us live from DeKalb County tonight. Angelique, Heard's family spoke to you. Why did they say they're so frustrated with the process?
Well, good evening to you both. Family members and friends say they are frustrated because there has been no arrest, and they say they know exactly who did the shooting. And even more upsetting, they claim the shooter has been on social media many days since the murder.
And I just feel like I just want justice for her.
The young mother of two boys, who's described as the life of the party, was gunned down, DeKalb police say, in her parents' driveway. Family members say Raesha was getting groceries out of the trunk when someone ambushed her from the side of the family's home on Kelly Chapel Road. They shot her multiple times. And these friends say they do plan to reach out to DeKalb police to talk with them about this new information about this person being on social media. We are live in DeKalb County. Angelique Proctor, Fox 5 News.
Raesha Danielle Heard was a 31-year-old woman living in Decatur, Georgia. She was the daughter of Ralph Sr. and Marilyn, and she grew up in a large family with 6 siblings. 4 brothers named Ralph Jr., Roman Sr., Roderius, and Renard, as well as 2 sisters, Rhonda Dickens and Janetta. Beyond her immediate family, she was connected to a network of uncles, aunts, cousins, and a godmother who were actively present in her life. Raesha was also a mother. She had two sons, Rajai and Riley, who were central to her life and upbringing. Both children were young at the time of her death, and their lives were directly affected by the events that unfolded in October 2023. While her occupation is not publicly documented, Raesha was widely described by those who knew her as someone lively and energetic. Friends and relatives called her the life of the party, emphasizing her social presence and connection within her community. She was previously in a relationship with Justin Rene Lewis, a man who was known in the music scene as a rapper under the stage name Muzik Cali. Their relationship became a central element in the events leading to her death, as it reportedly involved incidents of abuse, ultimately ending before the fatal encounter. The personal background of Raesha Heard cannot be separated from the history of violence and tragedy that surrounded her family in the years prior to her death. Her relationship with Justin Rene Lewis had deteriorated due to allegations of abuse. This detail is critical in understanding the broader context of the case, as it placed Raesha in a vulnerable position. According to available reports, the relationship had ended, but unresolved tensions remained between her and Lewis. This situation was compounded by another family tragedy. In July 2022, just over a year before Raesha's murder, her 15-year-old brother, Raesha Heard, was killed during an armed robbery at a DeKalb apartment complex. Raesha's death created a lasting impact on the Heard family, which was still in the process of grieving and recovering when Raesha's life was taken. Two violent deaths in a span of just over 14 months created a devastating pattern within the same household, placing the Heard family in the public eye and linking their story to broader conversations about violence in DeKalb County. The cumulative effect of these tragedies extended beyond the immediate family. The community surrounding Raesha and her relatives recognized the severity of what had occurred. Her death was not seen as an isolated act but as another instance of domestic violence escalating into lethal action. Local organizations and neighbors began to connect her story to the ongoing issue of intimate partner violence and the lack of adequate prevention measures. As reports indicated, the Heard family's trauma drew increased awareness and advocacy efforts. Domestic violence support groups and community leaders highlighted her case as part of a broader pattern affecting women across Georgia and the United States. By linking Raesha's murder to her history with Lewis, as well as to the prior killing of her younger brother, the narrative underscored the repeated exposure of one family to violent crime. On October 11, 2023, events culminated in the fatal shooting of Raesha Heard. She was at her parents' home on Kelly Chapel Road in DeKalb County. At the time of the incident, she was unloading groceries in the driveway. Her 8-year-old son was present and directly witnessed the events. Reports state that she was approached and shot multiple times. The assailant left her critically injured at the scene. Emergency response was called, but she did not survive. The location of the murder, a residential driveway at her parents' home, demonstrated the public and personal overlap of the crime. The immediate presence of her son as a witness added another layer of impact to the case. He not only lost his mother that night but also endured the trauma of watching the violence occur. The DeKalb County Police Department opened a homicide investigation following the murder. Family members of Raesha identified her former partner, Justin Rene Lewis, as the primary suspect. During the days following the murder, Lewis allegedly engaged in behavior on social media that further implicated him. Reports indicate that he taunted Raesha's family online, posting messages that drew attention to the crime and his involvement. This online activity not only heightened the distress of the victim's family, but also placed added pressure on investigators to locate and detain him. On October 18, 2023, 1 week after the shooting, authorities arrested Justin Rene Lewis in Forest Park, Georgia. He was charged with malice murder and taken into custody at the DeKalb County Jail, where he was held without bond. His arrest marked the first major development in the case after the crime. Lewis faced charges of malice murder in connection to Raesha's death. The DeKalb County District Attorney's Office took responsibility for the prosecution. At the time of reports, details regarding defense arguments, plea decisions, or trial scheduling had not yet been specified. The legal process remained ongoing, with the expectation of further hearings, possible indictment, and trial. The severity of the charge, combined with the public nature of the crime, ensured that the case would continue to receive scrutiny in both local and wider media outlets. Following Raesha's death, her two children, Rajai and Riley, were placed under the care of her extended family. Relatives expressed relief at Lewis's arrest, seeing it as an essential step toward accountability. However, the loss left permanent changes in their lives, particularly for the son who had witnessed the murder firsthand. The broader Heard family, already marked by the prior death of 15-year-old Romello in 2022, now had to contend with the additional trauma of losing Raesha. The compounded effect of these tragedies shaped the household and reinforced the dangers of domestic and community violence. Local media, including Fox 5 Atlanta, WSB-TV, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, covered the case extensively. Reports detailed the murder, the suspect's background, and the timeline of events leading to the arrest. Social media also played a dual role. While Lewis's online behavior was widely condemned and scrutinized, Raesha's family and supporters used platforms to spread awareness, call for justice, and highlight the dangers of abusive relationships. The case gained traction as both a crime story and a public example of domestic violence escalating to fatal outcomes. Raesha Heard's murder contributed to ongoing discussions about domestic violence, intimate partner abuse, and gun violence. Advocates emphasized the need for stronger systems of protection for women who leave abusive relationships. The connection between her case and prior incidents of family tragedy reinforced the vulnerability of individuals and families repeatedly exposed to violent environments. Her death was used by advocacy groups and community leaders to call for increased resources, stronger legal protections, and more consistent support for victims of abuse. It also added to the conversation surrounding gun violence in Georgia, raising questions about prevention and intervention measures. On the evening of October 11, 2023, events unfolded that would become the center of a homicide investigation in DeKalb County, Georgia. The incident took place at a residential property located on Kelly Chapel Road, specifically in the driveway of the victim's parents' home. At approximately the evening hours, 31-year-old Raesha Heard was in the process of unloading groceries from her vehicle. She had arrived at the residence with her children. As she moved between the car and the home, an armed individual approached the driveway. At least one of her children, identified as her 8-year-old son, was present and directly witnessed the events that followed. The assailant opened fire, striking Raesha multiple times. Witness accounts and law enforcement reports confirm that she was shot several times at close range in front of her son. The shooting occurred in the driveway, leaving no opportunity for escape or concealment. Raesha collapsed on the ground, and the suspect fled the scene immediately after the gunfire. Emergency calls were placed, and law enforcement, along with medical responders, arrived on site shortly after. Despite emergency efforts, Raesha was pronounced deceased at the scene. The area was cordoned off, and investigators began collecting physical evidence from the driveway and surrounding property. Shell casings, ballistic evidence, and witness testimonies were secured to establish a clearer timeline of the events. The DeKalb County Police Department took command of the investigation immediately after the crime scene was secured. Detectives conducted interviews with neighbors, family members, and the surviving witnesses present at the time of the incident. Early in the investigation, attention turned toward a known individual connected to the victim, Justin Rene Lewis, a local rapper who performed under the name Muzik Cali. Law enforcement sources indicated that family members quickly identified Lewis as the primary suspect, pointing to a history of conflict between him and Raesha. Their past relationship had ended prior to the incident, and according to the family, it had involved prior abusive behavior. As detectives pursued leads, digital evidence began to emerge. Reports confirmed that during the period following the murder and prior to his arrest, Lewis taunted Raesha's family on social media, making posts that drew further suspicion. These online activities were monitored and documented as part of the ongoing investigation, providing additional support to the identification of Lewis as the prime suspect. Law enforcement worked to track his movements. Detectives conducted surveillance and gathered information about possible locations he may have been hiding. Public appeals for information were limited, as investigators maintained a targeted focus on apprehending the suspect without jeopardizing the case. After approximately 1 week of searching, law enforcement located and apprehended the suspect. On October 18, 2023, Justin Rene Lewis was arrested in Forest Park, Georgia. The arrest operation was executed without incident, and Lewis was taken into custody. Following his arrest, Lewis was booked and formally charged. The primary charge filed was malice murder, reflecting the allegation that the killing was intentional and unlawful. Additional charges, if any, were not specified in early reports. After the booking process, Lewis was transported to the DeKalb County Jail, where he was placed under custody. The court determined that he would be held without bond, meaning he would remain in detention while awaiting further legal proceedings. The investigation into the murder of Raesha Heard revealed several contextual elements relevant to the case. Detectives confirmed that the attack was not random but connected to Raesha's prior relationship with the suspect. The presence of her child as a witness added significant weight to the circumstances of the crime, ensuring that eyewitness testimony from the minor would be an important part of the investigative file. Investigators reviewed social media evidence, witness accounts, and digital trails to corroborate the timeline of Lewis's activities before and after the murder. His online behavior, specifically posts directed at the victim's family, was documented as potential evidence of his state of mind and connection to the crime. As of the arrest date, Lewis faced a malice murder charge under Georgia law. This type of charge refers to an unlawful killing with deliberate intent, rather than one that occurred in the heat of passion or without prior thought. The DeKalb County District Attorney's Office assumed prosecutorial responsibility for preparing the case. At the time of his detention, no bond was granted, a decision that reflects the severity of the charges and the perceived risk posed by the suspect if released. Court proceedings, including arraignment and trial preparation, were scheduled to follow the arrest, though specific dates were not made public at the time. Shell casings and ballistic evidence recovered from the driveway were sent for forensic analysis to confirm weapon type and possible matches to known firearms. Statements from Raesha's 8-year-old son, family members inside the residence, and neighbors were documented. Screenshots and digital records of Lewis's social media posts following the murder were preserved to demonstrate behavior consistent with guilt. Law enforcement used leads from associates and monitoring to locate Lewis in Forest Park prior to arrest. The case of Raesha Heard entered the legal system following her death on October 11, 2023. After law enforcement identified and arrested the primary suspect, Justin Rene Lewis, legal proceedings began in DeKalb County, Georgia. The following sections explain the judicial process, the roles of both prosecution and defense, and the aftermath experienced by the family and community. Following the arrest of Justin Rene Lewis on October 18, 2023, in Forest Park, Georgia, he was booked into the DeKalb County Jail without bond. His initial court appearances marked the beginning of formal proceedings. At the time available records were examined, specific details regarding the preliminary hearing were not publicly available. Such hearings typically allow a judge to determine whether probable cause exists to proceed with charges. While the standard process in DeKalb County would include witness testimony and the presentation of evidence, reports did not provide direct confirmation of what occurred during Lewis's preliminary hearing, if held. An indictment was pending against Lewis at the time of early reports. He faced charges of malice murder in relation to the shooting of Raesha Heard. The indictment process involves a grand jury review, where jurors consider the evidence presented by the prosecution and determine whether formal charges should proceed to trial. Malice murder charges in Georgia require prosecutors to establish intent to kill without justification. This would be a critical factor in the trial if the case proceeds. In any murder trial, both sides of the courtroom are tasked with presenting arguments. However, available records provided more clarity on the prosecution than on the defense. Publicly accessible information did not specify who represented Lewis or what strategies the defense might use. In Georgia, defense counsel typically examines whether evidence is sufficient to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, challenges eyewitness testimony, and may introduce alternate explanations or question the reliability of law enforcement procedures. Without documented details, the scope of the defense's preparation remains unknown. The DeKalb County District Attorney's Office is responsible for prosecuting the case. Prosecutors would likely build their argument on physical evidence from the scene, eyewitness testimony, specifically from Raesha's young son who reportedly witnessed the event, and Lewis's prior history of alleged abusive behavior toward the victim. The prosecution would need to demonstrate not only that Lewis committed the act but that it was intentional, which is the defining factor in malice murder. At the time of review, no publicly available information indicated a scheduled trial date for Lewis. The legal process in Georgia can involve delays due to case backlogs, the collection of evidence, or scheduling conflicts. The expected duration of the trial also remained unspecified. Murder trials can vary widely in length depending on the number of witnesses, the complexity of evidence, and motions raised by either side. In summary, the judicial phase of this case remained in progress, with the indictment pending and the trial not yet scheduled. Updates would depend on formal filings from the court and further proceedings led by the DeKalb County District Attorney's Office. The murder of Raesha Heard had immediate consequences for her children, extended family, and the broader community. These impacts extended beyond the crime itself, shaping both private lives and public conversations in DeKalb County and beyond. Raesha Heard was the mother of 2 children, both of whom were directly affected by her death. Reports indicated that the children were placed under the care of family members following the incident. This ensured that they remained in a stable environment as the investigation continued. Family members expressed relief at the arrest of Justin Renee Lewis. The arrest provided confirmation that law enforcement had taken concrete steps toward accountability. With the suspect in custody and facing charges, the family could begin focusing on both supporting the children and preparing for the legal process that lay ahead. The community responded strongly in the aftermath of Raesha's death. Support came from both individuals and advocacy groups, reflecting the broader impact of violent crime and domestic abuse on families in Georgia. Community members provided assistance to the family in various ways, including public gatherings, online support, and fundraising efforts. Such actions served to reduce the immediate burden on the family while highlighting the collective response of the local population. Increased attention was given to the subjects of domestic violence and gun safety following the case. Advocacy groups and community leaders used the incident as an opportunity to address systemic issues surrounding abusive relationships and firearm accessibility. Campaigns focused on educating individuals about warning signs of abuse, the importance of reporting threats, and the resources available for victims. Gun safety initiatives emphasized the risks associated with firearms in domestic disputes and the importance of preventive measures. If this story gripped your heart and left you questioning the truth, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with others who need to hear it. For more chilling true crime stories that dive deep into the mysteries behind these tragedies, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest updates, investigations, and thought-provoking discussions. Thank you for being part of this journey with us as we uncover the truth and seek justice. Together we can make a difference. Stay safe, stay aware, and we'll see you in the next one.